Imagine the freezing darkness of December 1776. The dream of American independence is practically dead. You are a soldier wearing rotting rags, leaving red footprints in the snow. The most powerful military machine on the planet is hunting you down. Your enlistment expires in exactly 6 days. On January the 1st, everyone is going to drop their weapons and walk home. In this absolute despair, your commander, George Washington, makes a highly reckless decision. He decides to row his starving men across a freezing river, choked with massive ice blocks, to launch a surprise attack against terrifying professional soldiers. Today, we witness the unbelievable Christmas miracle that rescued the United States from total annihilation. To understand this desperation, we must look back. In the summer of 1776, King George III unleashed his ultimate vengeance. Over 400 British warships sailed into New York, bringing 32,000 highly trained soldiers and terrifying German mercenaries known as Hessians. George Washington was forced to defend the city with a fragile mob of farmers. In August, the British launched a massive attack on Brooklyn Heights. It was an absolute devastation. The British and Hessian troops outflanked the confused Americans. When the colonial militia saw the German mercenaries charging with sharp steel bayonets, they panicked. Hundreds of American soldiers were brutally eliminated. Washington watched helplessly, weeping openly, as his brave men were torn apart. Trapped against the East River, the revolution was hours away from complete destruction. But that night, a mysterious thick fog rolled over the water. Under its cover, Washington organized a completely silent evacuation. Highly skilled sailors rowed the entire American army across the river to Manhattan, right under the noses of the sleeping British fleet. Though saved from capture, the massive defeat sparked a terrifying retreat. For 3 agonizing months, the British army aggressively chased Washington down through the muddy roads of New Jersey. American morale plunged. Men deserted by the hundreds. By December, Washington's army had shrunk to a pathetic remnant of barely 3,000 exhausted men. They finally escaped across the Delaware River into Pennsylvania. Washington knew his army was legally dissolving on December the 31st. In the freezing camps, the soldiers were shivering and heavily depressed. But standing among them was Thomas Paine, the brilliant author of Common Sense. Sitting by a flickering campfire, Paine wrote a new highly explosive essay to inspire the troops, and demanded it be read aloud. The essay began, "These are the times that try men's souls." The words hit the exhausted soldiers like a physical shockwave, providing them with a raw, desperate burst of courage. Washington seized this psychological momentum. He formulated a tactical plan, so incredibly risky, his generals thought he was completely losing his mind. He decided to cross the freezing Delaware River on Christmas night to attack the Hessian mercenaries garrisoned in Trenton. Attacking elite soldiers by crossing an icy river during a winter storm was pure military insanity. On the dark evening of December the 25th, Washington ordered his men into the boats to begin the impossible journey. A violent winter storm slammed the region with freezing rain and thick snow. The river was a terrifying torrent, choked with floating blocks of razor-sharp ice. The ice violently smashed against the wooden hulls. It took until 3 in the morning to get the last men safely across. Washington had lost the vital cover of darkness, but turning back was impossible. The frozen army still had to march 9 grueling miles through the blinding blizzard. Men without shoes wrapped their injured feet tighter, leaving a visible trail of red in the snow. The freezing rain soaked their gunpowder, rendering their muskets entirely useless. Washington firmly replied without hesitation, "Then, tell them to use the bayonet. I am resolved to take Trenton." Before we uncover how this completely desperate attack changed world history, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Tell me in the comments, would you have re-enlisted in Washington's freezing army or walked home? Let us witness the historic attack. At exactly 8 o'clock in the morning, on December the 26th, the exhausted American army reached Trenton. The Hessian commander, Colonel Johann Rall, was completely unprepared. He firmly believed no army could possibly attack in such a horrific storm. Washington's men poured into the quiet town from 2 different directions with absolute determination. General Henry Knox quickly positioned his heavy cannons at the top of the main streets. Because the freezing rain had ruined the musket powder, the battle was decided by heavy artillery and close-quarters combat. Knox's cannons unleashed continuous devastating blasts directly down the narrow streets, completely shredding the confused Hessian formations. The terrified mercenaries scrambled out of their barracks in absolute panic. Colonel Rahl bravely tried to organize a formal counterattack, but quickly fell fatally wounded. Without their commander, the professional soldiers broke, retreating into a nearby orchard, where they were firmly surrounded. The Hessians lowered their flags and surrendered. The Battle of Trenton was over in less than a single hour. It was an absolute, stunning American victory that completely shocked the world, saving the dying dream of independence. Washington captured over 900 Hessian soldiers and confiscated desperately needed supplies. Miraculously, the American army suffered almost zero combat fatalities. This Christmas miracle was an incredibly powerful injection of adrenaline into the revolution. When news of the impossible victory spread, the entire morale of the country instantly reversed. Those freezing, exhausted soldiers looked at George Washington and decided to re-enlist. They decided to stay, suffer, and fight. Washington survived that terrifying winter through the sheer brilliance of a desperate surprise attack, proving the American army could actually strike back and win. But the joy of victory was about to be violently ripped away. The British army was still massive and highly lethal. As another freezing winter rapidly approached, the following year, Washington was forced to march his army into a remote, heavily wooded camp in Pennsylvania called Valley Forge. They were about to walk into a freezing hell on earth that would test their ultimate endurance. But from the absolute bottom of that frozen graveyard, a strict Prussian military genius was about to arrive to forge a truly professional army. We will witness the terrifying crucible of Valley Forge in the next episode.